your last summer at your farm, like a young man again, you cut down an aging, great New England oak. Oh, you are big, and you would not start to stoop, even on that absolute day. The most famous tree in Maryland, the state tree, in fact, was the Y oak. That white oak, Quercus alba, was the first tree in the history of the United States to receive formal government protection. Imagine, a tree that elicited affection from a legislative body. At 460 years of age, it was the largest and oldest specimen of its kind in the nation. I passed within a few miles of the Y oak many times, but never made the detour to see it, reassuring myself that I would do it someday. It had been there since 1543. What was the hurry? It is a lesson difficult for us to learn. But where there is life, there is death. And 2 years ago, the mighty oak blew over in a storm. I never got to see it, but a botanist friend pressed a branch for me that now hangs on my office wall. Its presence there is a lesson to me. This morning, early, I saw a gray squirrel, Sciurus carolinensis, crawling through the branches of the oak in my backyard. When the squirrel got as far out as it could go on the smaller branches, it made a big leap to the adjacent magnolia tree, Magnolia soulangeana. I have witnessed that squirrel take this route many mornings. After crawling through the magnolia's outer branches, the squirrel climbed down the trunk to the ground. Both the squirrel and I were looking to see where the cats were at that point, but the only animals that gave the squirrel any trouble were the birds, who swooped in screeching and scolding. Cats have been the death of many young squirrels, I thought, but squirrels have been the death of many young birds, too. The squirrels were not always in my yard. They are there now because of the oak tree. It is a cherry-bark oak, Quercus pagoda. At least, I think it is. Oaks are difficult to tell apart. There are 43 kinds of oak in the eastern United States alone, and they often hybridize, which makes identification even more complicated. I have frequently seen botanists, too time-limited for a thorough identification, just give up and put a tree into one of the big categories of white oaks or red oaks without determining the species. If you want to sound like one of these experts, all you need to know is that white oaks have rounded leaf lobes and red oaks have pointed leaf lobes. One of the problems with identifying oaks to species is that their leaves are highly variable. If you pick 20 leaves from an oak tree, chances are that each one will look slightly different from the others, and the leaves from one tree may look very much like the leaves from another tree of a different species. Besides looking at the leaves, it is necessary to look at the buds, the bark, and especially the acorns. The problem with examining acorns is that they are usually out of reach on the tree, and once they fall to the ground, they are rapidly eaten, or hidden by the many species of wildlife that depend on these nutritious morsels, like the gray squirrels in my yard. For 11 years, I watched my oak tree produce acorns and wondered why there were no squirrels to eat them. What had happened here before I came that caused the squirrels to be absent? The only thing I could imagine was a combination of young men with shotguns and territorial dogs. Both had lived here before me. Finally, in year 12, the squirrels returned to the tree, and there they have been living and breeding ever since. I am happy to see them. The landscape is much richer with them in it, and I will happily sacrifice a few flower bulbs to keep them here. Although it may be difficult for humans to distinguish oak species, the squirrels are able to tell. Acorns from different species vary in the amount of nutritious fat and bitter tannins they contain, and also in the time of year they germinate. These factors determine whether a squirrel will eat an acorn immediately or bury it to eat later in the winter or the spring. If an acorn is of the type that sprouts in the fall, the squirrel will eat it right away. A germinated acorn is not